Okay, hello everyone, welcome to another episode. The title is Do Not Fear the Universe in Your Eyes. And in the subtitle, I've shared this idea of living universes. The interesting thing about the universe is that it is accessed in different ways by our intelligence. Even though we exist, as we say it, in a universe, existence seems to be a singular being. The universe is outside of our eyes, and the universe is inside our eyes. And so we are in a universe, and also a universe is inside us. It's as if like man has access to the inner realm world, has access to an inner world and an outer self. This is where the domain of free will for the being goes, we can say. This is in the outer realm. But we can say in the outer realm, the unknown moves the world, and the unknown moves the self in the inner realms as well. That means the self in front of our eyes, the sense of self in front of our eyes, it moves in a known way, and the world behind our eyes moves in a known way, but the self in our inner realms moves in an unknown way, and the world beyond in front of our eyes moves in an unknown way. Simply, I'm just saying that in order for our eyes to be in the universe, the universe had to be there first. In order for the universe to be in our eyes had to be there. That means the world could have been here, but it didn't exist before we could have sensed it. I have wondered about fear often. I feel it's pretty natural. You look at National Geographic, you see animals, it's even animals experience fear. You see an animal goes into, there's intense states of life of the animal, there's playful moments, an animal plays, an animal fights, an animal runs for its life, an animal fights, like attacks another animal. The animal sleeps, the animal eats, the animal drinks, the animal functions in groups, certain animals. But the difference between all the other species and man is that man holds on to ways he has been. And the ways he has been interfere with ways he will be. Fear in front of my eyes, it's a consequence of objects. That means we fear our biological existence. If our biological existence is inactive or no longer present in the realm, then what is there to fear? What is there to fear when you have lost that which was defining the fear? So you see, the unknown has been personally, you can say, a strategy that it was like a gift from my soul to my mind, that the mind after some point stopped chasing the container of truth. I would tell you that I have There are moments where a human being just comes into contentment. What that means is a person has never seen an elephant, a person has beliefs on what an elephant is, has disbeliefs on what an elephant is, but when they see it, the emergence, just that instant of the experience, the actuality, it surpasses all theoretical analysis from potentials of belief and disbelief. And it's strange. We fear an outer event. Let's say if a meteor was hitting the earth, that would cause fear. But the fear is generating from within. That means it's fascinating how we are a non-physical subject moving as an object, not realizing that the subject cannot lose. The only thing a subject can lose is vanishing, is dismissal of its design. That means it's either on or off when it comes to the inner realms. That's why I feel it's evocational. I even feel that every breath that a human being does, like every inhale and exhalation, these are a complete reformatting of the inner antenna, of the brain's antenna. What that means is, imagine everybody has excellent memory. It's just that based on the speed of their speech, based on their breathing, their inhalation, exhalation being like water, being like the water of the ocean hitting the shore. And every time the mind thinks of a thought, we write something on the sand and the water smoothens it out. That means if a person consciously inhales and exhales, I don't know, you just do that. You just listen to your breathing for 10 minutes and you watch your existence as a presence of an experiencer. Nature balances itself. There is a scene in the movie Gladiator. It's a deleted scene. And it's a scene where Maximus is chained underneath. I don't know if it's underneath or where it is. Underneath, like he's chained, let us say underneath the Colosseum. And his general body, this is like getting close to the end of the movie, his general body comes up to him and he says, when I say general body, his commander buddy, Maximus is a general in the film, his right-hand man or whatever, who betrayed him at the beginning of the film, he comes to him and he says, Maximus, I'm a soldier, I obey. That means, tell me to free you and I will free you. And Maximus looks at him and he says something, I don't remember the exact words, but he says something in the lines of nature never puts anyone in anything that it has not prepared them for. Something in these lines. That has prepared them to bear. That means nature knows what it's doing. It's man who has a little bit of information compared to all this vastness and freaks out when he cannot have firm ground in the void. That means we clap when human beings planted a flag on the moon. But it's the same as us creating the story of humanity in the void. That's a flag that was planted. And it is one of the hardest things I feel for our species to come to terms with. That it is playful. That the nature of this universe is not per se intense only. We are in the intense regions. We are in the uncharted territories. What I mean by that is that there are travelers, local travelers, beings who travel from one space, one part of the space-time continuum to the other. Then there are those beings that are space, and so they don't travel, they embody in any continuum. That means it's like, imagine you're a branch of a tree and every leaf connected to the branch of this tree is a parallel lifetime in a parallel universe. Poetically, I'm saying this. You know? So if it was the case, when you become the branch, you do not just remember all that you are being simultaneously in the presence of the moment, you also remember that the branch is not here to just be a branch for leaves, to hold the leaves. When you are the leaf, the temporary that can fall, the leaf must realize and remember the branch. This is the yogi's divine memory. This is kind of reverse engineering from the fruit of knowledge back into the roots where it was all held from the beginning. You see, truth has to do with the causal position of the realm. Now, what we consider an effect of the realm, that means cause and effect, basic idea everybody knows. In this cause and effect situation, what if there was a cause that never went anywhere? What if there was energy that never transformed? In the first law of thermodynamics, we say energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it changes from one form to another. What it means is energy is change. People ask for energy. They ask for many things they want in life, but they don't realize things have to change for the new to enter. What that means is someone could be like, life, free me. Okay, then they, for example, suddenly see they're not in the biological dimension anymore. You see, that's why language is a very peculiar technology. I would say the biggest source of suffering right now on the planet is language use. That's it. That means either the way language is being used with others, or how language is being used with self, which is how you are receiving the world as a character in a story. The question will come, I feel, in every human being's life, that if this system ends, then fear, is it a necessity? That means that is the biggest challenge of the intellect, that when it has a value system, and this value system meets a new event, does the value system change, or does the value system raise its defenses and be like, no world, you adjust to me instead of me adjusting to you? Because that is what is happening with the ideological systems. That means there's even levels of fear. Do you know that means for a being in just, let's say, a singular dimension, yeah, exiting that singular dimension because this is all of life for you, yes, it's like shocking. But but I would tell you, when it comes to a multidimensional being, death is a door. That means just that first instant of conscious retention of some sort of awareness after the dismissal of the body. That means I will tell you, there were some Stoics that, I don't remember the quote exactly, but this comes from Stoic wisdom, where they were like, some person's like, how should I live? And the person's like, yo, I mean, of course, it's from a Stoic standpoint. The Stoics were a philosophical division of its own back in the day. But what it is, really, is that the person was like, you who's suffering in life, we know that we will go to our end here. So the strategy, this person, the Stoic wisdom that I'm going to share with you, is as if treat yourself as if you have already died, so there is nothing to lose, and then what would you do with what you have left? You see, this is an intense idea because language is being monopolized by emotions. You see, now we're living in a time where somebody says, it's as if we're just criticizing sound. That means if suddenly everybody spoke a language that nobody else could understand, Everybody was speaking their own language. Imagine we had 8 billion people suddenly go into glossolalia. It would be a situation where communication has no common denominator. No common denomination. Language is magic. I dare say it because it is. We cannot be ignorant, but magic is not magic. There's a type of magic which is, yeah, you know, like you feel like a puppeteer, you know, do some weird stuff, you know. But then there's a magic that is the magic of the living universe. This power surpasses, I would say, anything in this realm. It is nature's heartbeat, and we have manifested as those close to the ear of the Gaian heart. That means it's as if when a person cares for the world, the lords of karma pave your way. If the smile at the end of the finish line is already there. Fear has disturbed the species long enough. Fear must be responded to. And you can say fear is an inner challenge. That means any situation in my life where I've decided to respond to or to go see what it is or march into that unknown or piloting towards that unknown angle. It's as if I will tell you a reason that, let me tell you how some beings get rid of fear. As the fear happens, or the inefficiency continues of the moment, the waking soul, or the waking soul, the soul that is the unknown force giver, that is remembering the unknown, when the concept of fear vanishes, what is left is attention's response in awareness's space. That is the simplest. That means there is something that, let's say right now, I mean, this is very hypothetical and it's a sci-fi situation I'm going to paint. But imagine right now we had been invaded by extraterrestrials. In the future, let's say. Imagine in the future, I'll say it like that. Or I'll say it like that. Let's say, imagine actually right now, we were invaded by extraterrestrials. Okay? And these extraterrestrials were pushing us to the dirt. That means we were evolving towards the sunlight, but we were left weak, reduced. There will come a point where I just thought about this honestly right now for myself. If I was in a situation where there were forces beyond the terrestrial, right now it's human beings fighting. This is no big deal. You know, this wakes up, you know. But if there was interference from other dimensions pushing the human idea to its edge, that human idea will at some point notice it is an unknown force. All of knowledge is built on the foundation of an unknown force. Some you can say cultures call it the prime mover. That means it's like, yo, what's a soul? That moves, and that's like the reason why objects move, man. Or excuse me, the reason why objects move consciously. Because right now, the planets are orbiting, You know, like Jupiter has, there are moons to orbiting, what is it, like four, like there's moons orbiting around Jupiter, more than one moon, right? Now, we don't say the movement of those planets is intelligent activity, those planets have a soul, right? We attribute their movement to the force in the context. What we fear is how far our eyes have seen so far. That means there's this really liberating quote from Terence McKenna, I heard it. He says, nobody knows enough to worry. And if you just change the verb at the end to nobody knows enough to know. We've been told to go know thyself. We've been told to succeed and achieve dreams, and we are literally dreaming in the void here. The whole species is a dream. You know, when Martin Luther King, he said, I have a dream that the character of human beings updates. That dream was reality. What was a dream back then became reality. And that reality is part of a greater dream. It doesn't stop. That means our speed in the outer realms, we're designed to dream. In the inner realms, we're already awake. And there's so many things that you can say a person can fear the unfamiliar even. That means if somebody was teleported into a place where they had no idea what was going on, what was happening, you could put the strongest person in a baffling situation and fear can't arise. Fear is just like somebody on a motorcycle driving too fast where they're like, can I control this speed or can I not? Have I gone this speed before? Am I familiar with going this speed or not? You know, you can say, let's say you were a person and you were fearless. You feared nothing in front of your eyes. Nothing, right? But what if the person feared themselves? Isn't that a unique concept, right? That means they ask the person, what's your fears? They say, I don't know, whatever. Like some people say spiders, some people say this and that, but we never say ourselves, right? How many people on the planet fear themselves? And what does that even mean? Are we fearing what we see now? Are we fearing the potential we have? Are we fearing who we will become? Endless ways to look at this stuff. Therefore rendering us not oneself. That's the case. We are born and the universe is in our eyes. And what's remarkable is that nobody complains. We don't complain about what is being. We complain about what is done. It's as if we don't have a problem with nouns. We have a problem with verbs. For example, if you saw, let's say you're a pet owner and your pet does something wrong. Like let's say the pet bites the leg of someone, right? The pet owner doesn't go and bite the leg of the dog, for example. Do you see? So it's as if we dismiss what didn't know better. Now, when it comes to fear, people feel they should always know better. But that's the power of honesty. It makes you content not with what you want, but with what you are. So if you are what you want, you will get it content in a content way. And you know what's really peculiar about the word fear? The ear is in it. The word ear is in it. And it's as if when we look at something visual, you cannot fear image, right? Like let's say a person sees something scary. The image is not the fear, the cause of the fear. The image is just a color or light or whatever. The fear is what the image implies. That means there's nothing to be afraid of the outer realms and the space-time continuum, especially with the materialistic context in modern culture. What that means is, what are we afraid of? Atoms? You know, the person saw a wolf attack them and the person was like, yo, that's nothing. It's a bunch of electrons attacking me right now. What's there to be afraid of? You know, and then imagine the person like elbows the wolf in the face. That's too intense imagery, but you know what I mean? Like... Two doors must be opened. The door at the edge of the outer realm and the door at the edge of the inner realm. And once these doors are open, the challenge is to keep them open. Then after they have been opened, to integrate. You see, it's as if, imagine mankind, our species. We are a species in the observable universe that decided suddenly. 8 billion human beings decided, let us make the most advanced civilization known. Let us make it such an advanced civilization that the words written in history books, that those hands tremble out of the wonder of if they can even finish writing it here, you know. It's a story that is acting more true than what is actually going on in the present. And we can bypass language. When you bypass language of the self, you notice you're inseparable from the world. When you're inseparable from the world, it becomes this odd moment where every judgment you've had on yourself, you're like, wait a minute, am I judging a part of the planet right now? Am I judging a part of this universal sector right now? That means even if a person is rude to themselves, let's say a person has an intense night and they find themselves in front of the mirror shouting at what they don't like, who they don't like that they see. Rage against the self is the cruelest. That means, I will tell you, any person cruel in the outer realms, they are, I would say, 100 times more crueler in the inner realms to themselves. You see, that's the thing, that it's as if imagine if every action we did had a sound. Like if a person picked up a pen, there was like a sound made, right? Then imagine some sounds bothered our ear, some sounds didn't. Imagine evil actions, violent actions. These are very savage. These are bad sounds in the symphony of human existence. If we could truly hear, as the universal sector, our own voice, we would be fearless of the rising sun, but we will care about how the sun sets. Fear, before the child had a name, before the child was indoctrinated in language, before waves of information hit the human being, were freedom. I don't want to say we were a pre-human freedom of nature's will. Every human being harbors within their genetical memory an advanced analysis of how the environment feels. That means imagine emotions are the aspirations of our ancestors, which didn't have real image as if something sensory-wise experienced, but were in their inner realm had an image. That means it's as if the next question is, how is psychology, like let's say, I don't know, let's say 100 years from now, how will psychologists map the inner space? Or philosophers, of course. Philosophers are like, I can't tell you how many people I have spoken to who feel living in this world is an illusion. So the conclusion is renouncing the problem rather than giving it an answer. It's always easy. A person can literally become irresponsible and they could feel so free. Irresponsibility is the weak man's freedom. But if the civilization is not built strong, we're also all weak. Doesn't matter how strong we are, if the system is not updating in a strong way. Because it doesn't have honor, because the world doesn't have honor, it has lost its honor. And we're all playing too nice. You know what it is? We have utopia psychology and a dystopia outer realm. We're living in a time where our minds are content with stories, yet our bodies are ignorant of where they truly are. And I shouldn't say our bodies, I mean just in the physical realm, things can update. Just the shape of architecture of even the outer realms can update. There's a Zen story of the Zen master, and his disciple comes to the Zen master and says, I'm failing in my meditation. I can't meditate. I can't achieve, I can't attain anything in my meditation. I've been meditating so long and I'm not happy or anything, or nothing's progressing. The Zen master looks at the disciple, this bewildered disciple, and says, it will pass. And the disciple just hears this and goes. Then some weeks pass, then the disciple comes to the Zen master and says, oh my God, my meditation worked, you were right, it passed. I just endured it and eventually I became comfortable with a different intensity of my own being to be able to walk differently. And then the Zen master and the kids waiting for the Zen master to be like, you know, good job buddy, here's a sticker. But the Zen master says, as people already know, it will pass. And the kid gets shocked, and that is true Zen. Imagine this is like Neo-Zen called True Zen, one word. Or Zen True. It's a journey, you know. Honestly, it's a journey. It's a journey that has to be piloted in the inner realms. Nobody can move your mind. Your mind is left to the free will. Like pretty much the free will has only one job, to live. Or to decide. That means imagine we had to make decisions for the planet. Imagine all the animals and planets and everything came to human beings, everything in the universe, and was like, all right, human being, tell us what we should do. All right, humanity, tell us what we should do. It would be bizarre. We need to coexist with greater archetypes. That means species, all of history is to train our eyes for the brain, for the beyond. History is collective training. I have a twin brother, and I was discussing with him like the true essence of life, and also I was trying to share with I just told him a statement which I'm gonna say here. I told him that if you ever wonder what the secret to the greatness of the work is decency. Decency is the greatest antenna range. You know, in the chat section has written amazing grace. I would say this is when grace becomes amazing. Whether we fear grace or the ears are racing for truth, whatever perspective, attention, energy, they are at the disposal of the free will. These are the servants of intelligence. You can say the atoms that make up the biological body, they are servants. That means when I ask myself, why is existence here? I realize my mind is here. Therefore, the mind has authority over existence when the individual is looking. But then the person says, why is my mind here? And all of knowledge that correlates to objects and subjects, which are objects echoing in an inner realm. One question is needed to wake up the whole species. What would it be like to see the most advanced effort of everything? You know, I thought about the idea of a nation of hope, where a people have hope in the nation. Or imagine a universe where everybody had hope. It's like when you're living in hope, you cannot have hope. That means it's as if like the completion of a system often means its transparency. Just like a sentence is shared, and then from the sentence is shared, there's a pause, the space between the thoughts, and then the emergence of the new image. Right now, human beings are wondering about how do we organize knowledge. It's like after that, what do we do with all this on? The only strategy is become an explorer. There's no progress aside from that. the universe in front of our eyes, let's call it universe 1. And the universe behind our eyes, let's call it universe 2. Universe 1 was here before universe 2 in the main view we have now. Now, if universe 1 is two-dimensional, it's a universe in a two-dimensional being, then universe 2, the inner realm, for example, is three-dimensional. What it means is, if we are understanding reality as a square drawn on a piece of paper, the truth is a cube. And all the mystics and poets and human beings who have tried to vocally share a three-dimensional truth in a two-dimensional way have found it incapable, and only the poets were like, I got this, and they came and flew between the known and the unknown to draw the picture. We have exiled the mystery of our own life through the conditioning of stories spoon-fed. That means there was something where I remember I was watching this video which was a debate between a theist and an atheist. And the atheist shared a very interesting view to the theist. He was saying there's this one truth, And the atheist said, if you were born in anywhere, you would have had that culture's belief system. That means if you were born back in the day in ancient Greece, you'd be believing in Thor, in Zeus and whatnot, and all the different gods, right? So the God is local. That means the imagery towards the metaphysical, each part of the world has kind of drawn its own painting of the unknown. Now, some of these paintings have become super intense and have been taken as if they are the actual. That means, imagine, this is what I would say the difference between religion and mysticism, right? Imagine there's two people, they are guests, in Truth's house. And there's a portrait of Truth on the wall. And so the religious person is going to the portrait and touching the portrait and being like, oh, portrait, I'm here, I see you, right? And Truth is like, what is this guy doing, right? Why isn't this guy realize I am in the room, I am here. I am not words on paper. I am the one who wrote it. That's the unknown. The unknown is the greatest teaching in existence. It is the only way we can keep our foot in the door that we hope should never go shut. What that means is language can devour opportunities of history. Do you know how many wars have started because of language? It's mind-boggling. Because of identity, we can say the biggest source of death on the planet, the cause of death in this planet is intense identification. If human beings were playful, wars could have been bypassed. But on another level, there is this whole mystery of we need to make mistakes to know, somehow, in a strange way, we have to be grateful for the mistakes that our species made to use them at least. Everything is like That means imagine we looked at the word everything and we looked at the word nothing. And imagine we separated the thing part of both. It would be an every no, right? So that means the thing is the same. Existence is the same. It's just experience that can be everything and nothing. The mind is not a person. The mind is a movement between an oscillation between pure unknown and pure known. In the middle of this, language is being born in our minds, or adopted based on how loud the voice of one's conditioning in the world is, you know. This is one thing that I wish I could go back in time. Like some, you know, I'll tell you something hilarious. Like if I could go back in time and like right now, if I had a time machine and I could go back like, I don't know, 10 years, way more than 10 years. If I went back 15 years, right, and my future self went back and imagine, like, I don't know, I had some sort of fashion that was anyways, I would just go back to that version of myself and just hit it in the head. Do you know? We say the purpose of man is to be free. What is the purpose of free? If we are self-defining, self-generating, if our minds are reinventing the moment just based on neurological variety, I don't know, I keep thinking civilization is using a known strategy to try to know more about the unknown. But if we all felt we were unknown, knowledge would be every new experience. It would not have a reference to be filtered to. That means true knowledge is sight without it's sight without a past. I would like to go into a quote tunnel on the idea of fear. Andrew Clements. But fear doesn't need doors and windows, it works from the inside. Queen Latifah. Fear can be good when you're walking past an alley at night, or when you need to check the locks on your doors before you go to bed, but it's not good when you have a goal and you're fearful of obstacles. We often get trapped by our fears, but anyone who has had success has failed before. Emil Cioran says fear can supplant our real problems only to the extent unwilling either to assimilate or to exhaust it, we perpetuate it within ourselves like a temptation and enthrone it at the very heart of our solitude. That means that's the thing. Solitude is fear worship. I mean, that's too intense. I should say solid. I mean, when a person, you can say it's as if the reality, the inner realms have convinced the outer realms before the outer realms could convince the inner realms, before the inner realms could actually check out the outer realms. So could blind solitude be fear worship? This may be an episode in the future. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Tell me this isn't on mute. Okay. Fear defeats more people than any other thing in the world. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge. That's the biggest opponent of our species. That means imagine all humanity united, and then in the future historians were like, how did all human beings unite? And the answer was they found all human beings united to get rid of their ultimate fear. Which is not knowing why we know. That's the beautiful thing of being a natural being. We are as part of nature, as much as the sun, as much as everything that exists in this natural world. We are nature. We're just nature, you know, breakdancing in another dimension. Stephen Pressfield says, fear doesn't go away. The warrior and the artist live by the same code of necessity, which dictates that the battle must be fought anew every day. Oh yeah, tell me about it. The heart's doing it. The heart is the greatest general to learn from. The heart is commanding the whole body. And the heart never stops. That's the beautiful thing about the biological body. Nothing works harder than a biological system to maintain itself, regardless of what ideology we have. Nature is our superior. Miguel de Cervantes. Or Servant, I don't know how to say. Fear has many eyes and can see things underground. This is a fascinating quote. Fear has many eyes and can see things underground. Fear is multidimensional. We can't ignore how when a person fears something, it's like an analysis. It's like it's like two applications open. The application of what is going on in the outer realms and the application of what is going on in the inner realms. Fear is like the spoiled fear is the spoiled behavior of the eternal. Usman B. Asif says fear is a dark room where negatives develop. Oh, okay, that's poetic. Fear is a dark room where negatives develop, yeah. There's no way I can pronounce this. Stefan Zwig says fear is a distorting mirror in which anything can appear as a caricature of itself, stretched to terrible proportions. Once inflamed, the imagination pursues the craziest and most unlikely possibilities. What is more absurd suddenly seems the most probable. This is when the bird hasn't flown above the tree branches yet. When the bird truly flies beyond the forest, it has a freedom that it can no longer judge itself the way, it can no longer live the way it did on the branch. That means the same way as if a bird that has never flown suddenly learns how to fly, and then from the sky looks at a view it has never seen and comes back and lives on builds a nest with the knowledge of the sky. I feel it's the same where we are doing the same thing where in our material worship, what can I say? Fear is the past pulling the jacket of the future. Sometimes the future pulling the jacket of the present, denying it to go to the future. Or even pulling the future, right? So it would be a situation where the future will look at the past and be like, you want to take the jacket? You want to hold my jacket and not let me go forth? Take what you don't know. You see, there is sacrifice. Sacrifice is not just in the outer realms like we see it in movies where, you know, the hero sacrifices himself for the glory of everybody. What is that? It's like that's like in fiction. In reality, it has to be a global a global effort. So inner sacrifice is that you are sacrificing an inefficient idea of self for first the awareness of emptiness, then the evocation of whatever. There's many mysteries in this world, many angles to it that we haven't uncovered yet. When people forget this, their life becomes dull. When the mystery lives on in the back of their mind, that is where your mind is not searching, but trying to remember where it was. You see, that's one of those beautiful privileges in life. You know, not luxury is not just in the outer realms. The luxury of the outer realms is limited to repetition. But the luxury in the inner realms is like a fascination of the new. The new is its own gift based on who you are. Marilyn Ferguson says, fear is a question. What are you afraid of? And why? Just as the seed of health is in illness, because illness contains information, your fears are a treasure house of self-knowledge if you explore them. Rick Warren says fear is a self-imposed prison that will keep you from becoming what God intends for you to be. You must move against it with the weapons of faith and love. Edgar Wallace. Fear is a tyrant and a despot, more terrible than the rack, more potent than the snake. Neil Donald Walsh. He writes fear in caps. He says fear is an acronym in the English language for false evidence appearing real. Wow. Neil Donald Walsh, just if I could give a medal to all these quotes, he would get it. Jimmy Stewart says, fear is an insidious and deadly thing. It can warp judgment, freeze reflexes, breed mistakes. Worse, it's contagious. But one thing Jimmy doesn't say here, fear also is a choice. Every moment of my life where I've been able to do something, there was some choice. There was a character in this Japanese show called Shingeki no Kyojin called Armin. And this character was a character who was afraid but was super smart. And this character finds a moment where it's pretty much his last moment where he's alive, you know, and he just for a moment, he suddenly figures something out and he goes to do it. And he saw there's a scene where the writers of the show were genius. Look at the sentence. He says, I feel courage flowing through me. I feel courage flowing through me. As if when the value is there, you are pulled. It's as if like two magnets, a positive and negative, right? And whether you think you're negative or positive, when you see the reverse, you're like, oh, it's the attraction to the higher truth is there. That means the glow of higher dimensions can be found in the darkness of the shade of the lesser. Neil Gaiman says, fear is contagious. You can catch it and you can also let it go. It's like, what did you do with fear? It's like, I caught it and I threw it on the ground. Robert Heller says, fear is excitement without breath. This is one of the funniest quotes in existence right now. Oh my god. I'm gonna post it. Fear is excitement without breath. Oh my god. Sister Mary Tricky. Can't tell if that's a rapper or an actual sister. A nun. Sister Mary Tricky says fear is faith that it won't work out. Fear is an event. What else can it be? If you stay where it is, you stay in it. That is the reality of it. And the greatest way the person can challenge fear is, let's say the person says, okay, I fear everything. Instead of people not, let's say, what is the common view? I don't want to fear anything, I want to be strong like that Wizard of Oz lion that, I don't know, needed courage flowing through it. As if we are in a world where there is endless reasons to fear things. A person can fear sleep. A person can fear anything they can see. Fear is something we put on something. Or it emanates from, not emanates, it's like given off from something. Fear is the smoke of inefficiency. Like if an efficiency was a fire. We fear our own ability without knowing how deep our ability is. That means any person, like sometimes it kind of like breaks my heart when I think about it, how many human beings have used their bridge the wrong way. And it's not easy. And there's some angels who go and help. This guy had invited 200 people in a very depressed city. At midnight, he would go for walks on this bridge, and he would see there was somebody, you know, their attention was on the ether, and he would invite them for tea. He would talk to them like a human being, and they would activate. Intelligence would activate. To have the ability to not see, to see the efficient before the inefficient. That's the only thing I could say ever since I did novelty's been abundant in my life. Imagine the idea of like multidimensional scavengers, where they're just coming to train, as if Earth is a training zone. It's where a multidimensional being trains itself to be individual. Norman Vincent Peale says fear is never a reason for quitting, it is only an excuse. There's a Japanese proverb that says fear is only as deep as the mind allows. And guys, just to finish off what I was saying there about the bridge, I was kind of thinking of how I could lead that. The idea is that the value of life, if it is not understood that you have to pilot your eyes, then the person will expect the world to owe them. And it's this psychology that brings inner despair. That means it's as if you cannot forgive any person in this world if you haven't forgiven the world that the people are in. That's the maturity of the advanced communicators in the future generations. They are not fighting the world anymore. What is this? It's just designers building networks all around the planet. That's it. The salvation of the human species is like a co-pilot has come. That means we were just had a material analysis, then suddenly an immaterial analysis is arising. It's honestly like a wave. It's like beings feel their like outer realm is the only thing that's it, then suddenly they feel the inner realm is the only thing that's it, then the outer realm, inner realm, and it's like history is like a sine wave slowly moving between these. You know, and you can say when a person thinks about their ancestry is nothing. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory sense. I'm saying literally that when you go back to your last ancestor, your last echo, you know, or the first domino that was pushed. Before the first domino, there was just a table. And then the domino was placed or set into motion. Aristotle says fear is pain arising from the anticipation of evil. Brian Germain. Fear is simply staring in a direction you didn't want to go anyway. Samuel Butler. Fear is static that prevents me from hearing myself. Frank Sinatra. Fear is the enemy of logic. Henry H. Tweedy says fear is the father of courage and the mother of safety. Dudley Nichols says fear is the highest fence. Arnold Glasso says fear is the lengthened shadow of ignorance. Bertrand Russell says fear is the main source of superstition and one of the main sources of cruelty. To conquer fear is the beginning of wisdom. This is it. This is one of those algorithms that need to be globalized. Thomas Hardy says fear is the mother of foresight. Friedrich Nietzsche says fear is the mother of morality. And guys, this is the quote on us though. James Hastings. Okay, this is pretty heavy, but I'll read it. James Hastings says fear is the needle that pierces us that it may carry a thread to bind us to heaven. Yoda says fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And this is exactly like, there's echoes of Buddhism in Star Wars. George Sowell says fear is the tax that conscience pays to guilt. Brian Kranz says fear is the thief of dreams. Albert Hubbard. Fear is the thought of admitted inferiority. Anwar Sadat. Fear is, I believe, a most effective tool in destroying the soul of an individual and the soul of a people. Arthur Ashe says fear isn't an excuse to come to a standstill. It's the impetus to step up and strike. Yeah, I would say, I don't know which century Arthur Ashe is from, but there is something that everything in life comes down to us waiting for ourself to be itself. It's hilarious, you know. Shirley MacLaine. Fear makes strangers of people who would be friends. German proverb. Fear makes the wolf bigger than he is. Benjamin Disraeli says fear makes us feel our humanity. Dale Carnegie, how long is this? Oh my god. Okay, Dale Carnegie says fear not those who argue but those who dodge. Fear not those who argue but those who dodge. This is, any employer of any company should keep in mind. Because those who dodge, they don't care for the future. That's the honesty of it. If you care for the future, you can't dodge it. It's like it's not the Matrix, you know. It's like I dodged my fears like bullets that never could touch me, you know. That might be too much of an expectation. The employers, like in the job interview, you know. Can you dodge bullets of fear? Oh man. Anyways, Helen Mirren. Fear sometimes stops you from doing stupid things, but it can also stop you from doing creative or exciting or experimental things. It can cloud your judgment of others and lead to all kinds of evil. The control and understanding the control and understanding of our personal fears is one of the most important undertakings in our life. That means fear is a clue to most likely what the reverse of it is like, will lead you towards your universal nature, right? Because when I think about who I am as a person, that relates to everything that we're considering human accessible knowledge. But the moment we are being something more than personality can contain, like we're being a movement, or like that rock star on stage in that zone, is like that's really not a person there. That's a moment. That's literally like integration with the universal moment as a being. You see, it's a moment of inseparability of the individual and the cosmic activity. Leonardo Da Vinci. Just as courage imperils life, fear protects it. Gandhi says the enemy is fear. We think it is hate, but it is fear. That means the fear to understand is like the biggest discrimination. The fear to understand how eyes are multi-local. Every person exists to themselves in a certain way, and based on what is in the environment, what is looking at them, that they like the ridiculous thing is like everybody, life is like walking in a giant museum, where it's as if everybody is artwork, like an art gallery. Let me say. It's honestly that. It's a giant art gallery where we're existing in, and we are also an artwork, and every person is looking at each other and that gets a different impression of the artwork. We are elemental artwork. So a living universe could be said to be a living painting, and a living painting is a film. So we can say we have a universal sector that is just based on the stillness of the moment, and a universal sector defined based on the incredible movements. That means we should actually have 3 types of languages. I would say 4. Right now, every person in each country, they just learn 1 language, at best other languages, but the other languages can't be efficiently integrated because all the cultural pictures are different. So we require a 4 language system Or I would even add another one. I could say 5-language system. That means the person has to learn the language of the body. This is the biological sciences, the medical sciences. I feel that we should teach kids about health in primary school, like in middle school. Children should get the knowledge of the most advanced doctors at that age, just by middle school. H.P. Lovecraft. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. The oldest emotion is not fear. It can't be fear. The oldest emotion is awe. A-W-E. Fascination. I don't know. Fear is the loss. That means having something, or the opportunity to have something, is the first emotion. Like that means we could expect from our ancestors to be like, yo, am I being a creature right now? Oh my god. And the creature starts running in the wilderness. I mean, it didn't, I wouldn't say it happened like that, but tomato kind of geometry to both ideas. Franklin D. Roosevelt. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. Terror, that means fear is a sort of terror. The fear of fear is a kind of terror that paralyzes, excuse me, not the fear of fear. The fear is a kind of terror, Franklin D. Roosevelt here is saying, which paralyzes the efforts that society needs to convert its inefficiency, its retreat, into advance. This is it. We gotta recycle our ignorance. And I feel a practical way we can do this, if I've declared it, it's the era of advanced communication now. We have moved into it. Where every human being, by sharing the efficiency of their vision in a global system, is inputting more it's as if in a world of machines we gotta act natural. In a world where everything was natural, we built machines. It's like endless reasons to have reason. Endless reasons to have reasons. Max Lucado says, the presence of fear does not mean you have no faith. Fear visits everyone, but make your fear a visitor, not a resident. Christian Neville Bovee says there is great beauty in going through life without anxiety or fear. Half our fears are baseless and the other half discreditable. Catherine Patterson. To fear is one thing. To let fear grab you by the tail and swing you around is another. And last but not least, a quote from Seneca. Where the fear is, happiness is not. That means it doesn't matter. If a person fears their body, there's no happiness there. If the person fears their mind, there's no happiness there. And if the person has feared both their body and mind, what's the soul going to do? The soul's going to be like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do with my mind and body? But then, the reinventive force of the realm arises. I would say re-emergence. That means the mind, I would say, is like a phoenix. The body is not. The body is temporary, but the mind, regardless of what it goes through, as long as there is the unknown viewer within, that force is awakened, that force is alive, is present. It reanimates. That means it's like an explanation of the phoenix's immortality. It's just the legend of the phoenix, that idea depicted in certain cultures as a bird of flame that would resurrect from the ashes. So the phoenix is the symbol of wisdom, that whatever it goes through in the life, whatever the journey, whatever the task, whatever the great work of the eyes in reality, in the space-time continuum, we are in truth's house, but truth cannot be housed by our minds. That means the body will never understand the mind. It cannot. That means matter cannot be immaterial. So this dichotomy will till the end of time exist, as long as matter is considered to have an ideological position. But when it comes to the mind, which is the multidimensional, like you can say a person can move their eyes around different angles. Now you are, let's say, moving your attention in your inner landscape in different angles. Do not fear the universe in your eyes, because it makes no sense. If it's unknown, if it has an unknown variable, we can never even know what the fear is. You know, in the outer realms it can be known, but in the inner realms the fear is kept. It's as if the inner event didn't just come and go. Like when a person drinks a glass of water, right? That event is just very simple inner event to let go of. The person drinks the glass of water, puts the glass of water down, done, right? They move on to their next moment, not thinking about that glass of water. But there's some emotional events in the human life that these are not as simple to let go and move on to the next moment. That means when a person drinks a glass of water, they don't even think about it the whole day, right? But when a person has a sort of, let's say, emotional intensity of the environment imprinted into their psyche or whatnot, the presence of nature. Nature's secrets cannot be contained by man's language. This is the truth. Language is two-dimensional. Nature is three-dimensional. The soul is beyond the fourth dimension. It's beyond time. And the universe in the middle of this is alive. That means the greatest hope that we have right now is that the world, nature knows what it's doing, even if man does not. That means if man just listens to nature, he finds himself to become allies with the natural world. That means I've had moments where this may sound ridiculous, but I've gone in walks in nature and I've seen an animal notice me. And I've noticed the animal, and I've literally brought like, between the area between my thumb and my index finger, but the area between the knuckle of my index finger and the fingertip, and I've kind of put that on my forehead, and I've just bowed to the presence of the moment in my inner realms. So what it is like I've had moments where, and of course that's something personal in the inner realms I'm sharing, but I'm saying like the value of it was for a moment I felt as if, who am I? I don't know, but what is this world here happening? And then it's as if like the new signals could be received. Anyways, thank you for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Much blessings and namaste. And one last thing to say about fear. In an advanced civilization, fear would just be another dimension of information. That means when the multidimensional is allowed, we won't fear things, we will try to see more dimensions, more angles to the moment, more views. And when we do, we have more information to then the free will to re-emerge. Or like a wind to go forth. Anyways, namaste.